Welcome to Books in the Freezer, a podcast dedicated to the deliciously disturbing world of horror fiction. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I am joined once again by fan favorite, Quincy, to come on and help me talk about some spooky books for spooky season. It's fall, y'all.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie, again.
Oh, it is always so fun. And I really like these episodes. I like hearing everyone's suggestions. Like, people always bring up stuff that like I would not have thought about, and I love that.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's what I'm here for. And yeah, I'm always coming up with ideas, and I'm like, okay, what idea do I want to bring up to Stephanie this time? And then I just present it, and then you're always on board. So I
Well,
love
I'm
that.
always looking for new ideas. So, thank you. And then you're also like willing to come on and like actually help me do it, which is a big help.
Oh, girl, my life is consisting of just reading. So, like, any way to gush about it, sign me up.
We need an outlet. That was the idea for this podcast, was essentially like I just needed an outlet to talk about this.
Yeah, yeah. This is like another form of therapy for me, just ranting and expressing my love for all these books that we get to talk about?
Let's have a therapy session.
Oh, yes, let's do it.
All right, so we're talking about spooky season, particularly autumn. And this is going to be airing, I think, closer to the end of autumn. But I think, you know what, you can still get in those fall feels.
Yes, I could not agree more. Fall and winter are all like this transition period that I feel a lot of our recommendations are going to fall under. It doesn't necessarily need to be spooky season or spooky themed books, or I'm sorry, Halloween themed books. Just like I think what would make a good autumn book is taking place in autumn or even winter. Um, just that time of year where things start to kind of slow down and the seasons change, which I don't know. I feel a lot of us spooky readers appreciate that time of year. Um, so yeah, we got some good books here.
I think so too. I was thinking because I feel like there's certain type of stories that just inherently feel autumnal. Like gothic stories to
Yes,
me feel very
yes.
autumnal. Like there's some, winter
Hmm.
gothic, but
Oh,
I think
definitely.
books that are set in schools, obviously I feel like school in general is a very fall thing, even
Thing,
though
yeah,
it is encompasses three different seasons to me. Like,
it really does.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking of fall. Folk horror,
Yes, yes.
again, there are different seasons. Obviously, like midsummer is like summer folk horror, but I think when I think of folk horror,
Mhm.
I'm thinking autumn and like harvest.
Yes, yes. I definitely get those vibes of stories being passed down from generation to generation, like that kind of like
Mhm.
aesthetic. Folk horror is a lot of feels very timely, I guess, very vintage,
Yeah.
if you will, even though a lot of the good stuff is like, current. But yeah, I totally agree with you.
How basic are you when it comes to fall?
Okay, not basic at
Really?
all. No shade to
To
anyone.
me,
I'm not a PSL person.
it's me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not a pumpkin spice person unless it's pumpkin cheesecake or pumpkin pie. Otherwise, like, I mean, you'll find me in my all black sweatpants and sweater on the couch being all cozy reading horror, but that also goes for summer when the AC is on. So I'm quite comfortable saying I'm not very basic, but
Okay, then I will use this space to really come clean and
yes.
say I am like the basic of basic. Like, I'm pulling out like my leggings and boots and like getting to get my pumpkin spice, putting on
Mhm.
my Taylor Swift albums, putting on my Evermore and Folklore, like really getting into the mood.
Hey, no shade. You live your
That is
best
my
life.
best life. As soon as that hits, I'm
Yes.
like,
Like the end of September.
yes. It also like just started getting cold because I feel like I like getting into that mood in
Yeah.
September, but it's been hot for the past couple weeks.
Yeah. So I'm in Minnesota and it just started getting like I just started wearing hoodies like a week
Hmm.
ago. And even then by the time I got off work, I'm like, do I really need this hoodie? Probably not. But yeah, it's been pretty warm the beginning of October here, which is not my thing.
I know. I'm like, how am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions?
Exactly. This is monstrosity, I'm telling you.
So do you have like things you do every fall?
Yes. So one of them I will talk about when we talk about our books, but I put on the same movies every fall, which is Jennifer's Body. I just added Haunting a Hill House. I've watched that since it came out every year. The Exorcist is always on around this time of year, and I do read other things other than horror, but I do dedicate October strictly to horror. It just really helps me, get in the mood of things because 'tis the season. And yeah, so what about you?
I definitely have my movies that I watch. Like Haunt, that movie on Shudder. I've watched that for the past couple
Hmm.
years. It's like it takes place on Halloween in a haunted house. So that's been a thing.
Yeah.
I just watched that with the Patreon group, so that was fun. The old House on Haunted Hill, like the black and white one. I like to
Hmm.
watch that.
Oh
I
yeah.
tend to like try to watch a lot of horror movies in October specifically. Like I really like to
Yeah.
have at least a few a week that I'm watching and try to watch things for the
Yes.
first time. Like I really try to like watch things
Yes.
I haven't watched before. I love practical magic,
Hmm.
but here's what I'm saying. I don't think it's
Yes.
technically a fall movie. Like it's witchy,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's
I
summer.
think the only thing fall about is the witches, I
Yeah,
feel.
like the ants are leaving for like a summer solstice festival.
Yeah.
And then at
Mhm.
the end, it's the scene where it's Halloween and they're wearing the witch hats and they're jumping off the roof. But like that is it. It is technically a
Yeah.
summer movie.
Summer. Yes. Yes.
I will not let this stop me from watching it every fall.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? Might as well watch it in summer
Yeah,
too,
also, I'm giving you permission. That is also a summer movie.
Yes, you heard it here, folks. It's a summer movie. Yeah, I actually watched Haunt maybe 3 times this year or this spooky season already because I showed it to a couple friends that haven't seen it. And of course I had to watch it by myself. I love that movie. It's so good. I mean, I don't think it's like, Oscar worthy, but like it's very intense. Just overall good time. I recommend it to
I
anyone
think, yeah,
that
I
can
think it's
handle
a
it.
very good movie. I think on my third rewatch, there were parts that still effectively scared me or that made me like, ugh, no, don't do that. I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, no, don't go in
Yeah.
there. Ah!
Oh my God. We're gonna have to talk about spoilers like
Yeah.
after the fact.
But
'Cause-
there's so many scenes. And then
Yeah.
I think when you do so many rewatches, I feel like it's a very well told story. I think every element that's introduced comes into play later. I don't think the ending is my
Hmm.
favorite, but I think like overall it's
Hmm.
a pretty good movie.
Oh yes, yes. I'm right there with you. I agree.
So we reached out and asked listeners what horror book is bringing some strong autumn vibes, and we got
Yes.
mucho answers. So many answers.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
And I'm always so grateful. So the show notes for this episode are going to be intense. I will try to actually get them linked by the time this comes out so you can look and see every single book that was mentioned this episode.
Mhm.
But it's a lot. So get those TBRs
Yes,
ready.
it is.
So going through, and I didn't do all the comments, but I did. I want to say most. Most of the comments are here.
Yeah. Girl, you have enough in there for like a little
A
novella,
novella that is
so
just book titles and like Twitter handles.
for autumn. For autumn only.
Oh man. So on Instagram, the Reading Murder suggested classic Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Brad.
Classic. You can't go
I'm wrong.
wrong.
I don't think I've read that one. I think I started to read it and then got distracted. But the Martian Chronicles is one of
Mhm.
my like all-time favorites, and I love the Halloween tree, which would also fit into this.
Yes,
So
very much so.
Sarah
Hmm.
Spooky Reads says The Last Harvest by Kim Liggett. I also just read Old Farmhouses of the North by Michelle von Eschen. Very good for spooky season. Okay. I have been wanting to read The Last Harvest. That's like YA folk horror.
Yes. I believe I just saw it at Barney's or Barnes and Noble. And I'm like, ooh, I already have like 5 other books. Should I? Should I not? So I've yet to buy it though.
I know that's one that I've been eyeing for a while. I think Rachel might have mentioned it as one of her picks for an episode we did like years ago. And ever since then, I'm like, that's really good. I should read that. As you do.
Yeah.
As you do.
Oh yeah, she actually read Come Closer because of her so many years ago when I first started listening to the podcast. And I read that last year for spooky season as well, and it holds up.
Yeah, it's a
Just putting
it
that
is
out
a
there for
very that's
everyone.
another very well told story. If you
Hmm.
like possession horror.
Agreed.
Book Bruja says, The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. This is one I have
Hmm.
on my shelf, and I have been meaning to read. I don't know why. When I bought it, I definitely thought it was a summer book for some reason, but I've seen it on a lot of fall book
Hmm.
lists. So apparently I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, maybe it's kind of like Practical Magic. Maybe you
That's
could
true.
do it for both. Who knows? I have not read it yet.
Pink Paradox Reads says Remains by Andrew Cole, Bleak Like a Bergen Autumn. Okay.
Cool.
Rumi Nations says Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. Ooh, it's been a long time since I read that book, but that is one where the minute I finished it, I had to sit with my feelings for a bit. It's like,
Don't you love when a book does that to you? Like you just need a moment to like marinate in like what you just read and experienced. It's one of the best
well, I think
feelings.
you especially, you like all these emotionally heart wrenching. Like, I read My Dark Vanessa
Oh
because
my
of
God.
you. I'm like, this book has
You're like, Quincy,
destroyed my
why?
soul. Thank you.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people if it doesn't scare me, disturb me, or like make me depressed, then I don't want it.
The only emotions,
Um,
really.
yeah, yes, that's all I need.
Strong Sense of says Plain Bad Heroines by Emily Danforth. Hard agree. We have Gothic going on, we have some queer romance, and we have Boarding School, which I think, let's do it. It's perfect. Perfect for spooky
Yeah,
season. Pine
yeah.
by Francine Toon. I don't know that one. I'll have to look it up.
Mm.
Wakenhurst by Michelle Paver and The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I have heard a lot of people recommend The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. It is a giant brick of a book.
Oh, like a tome.
The underscore towering underscore TBR says horrid. And I agree. That was also going to be one of my picks, but like multiple people commented it. So I'm like, all right.
Mhm.
That's like YA haunted house. And I was very pleasantly surprised
Mhm.
by it. Because I think it took this story it could have been very tropey. And I feel like it went a very different way with it. And every time it had a chance to like do these tropes, I was impressed with the decisions that were made.
That's the one with that really cool cover, right? With
The
the
flowers for
flowers.
the
Oh,
eyes, the rose eyes.
yeah. I'm a sucker. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but not with me.
That's the why I bought it. I don't think I even really knew what it was about. I just knew it was horror and it had a
Yeah,
good cover. I'm like, that's enough.
yeah. It's like, okay,
That's a cart.
take my money.
Giant Book Stacks says Deity by Matt Wazolowski has lots of parts in a forest, but I'm not sure it's a fall theme. Okay, so this is one of the books in the 6 stories series, and it's the one I haven't read
Mhm.
yet because it's like 6 stories, Hydra, Changeling. I forget the
Mhm.
one I just read, but the next one is Deity. So
Yes.
I'll have to do that. Also, I'm going to say it's a series that is very underhyped. I feel like more people need to be reading it. He's from the UK, so I don't know if that's why it's not as big here, is because it is like a British
Yeah.
series. But they're these thrillers, but they're told from a podcaster who finds a case and he interviews 6 people that are connected to the case and like kind of puts these things together. I feel like they're very good.
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
creepy.
girls, just sign me up.
I would also do the audiobooks because they do the different voice actors and it is like an
Hmm.
interview.
Oh God, just level of detail. I love that.
I'm a sucker for good audio production.
Yes, yes.
Audrey Elise 113 coming in with one of my picks for today. Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, The Haunting of Hill House, and Haunted Nights, edited by Shirley Jackson. I'm gonna thumbs up all of these. Solid suggestions.
Yeah, I think any Shirley Jackson for this time of year is a
Yeah.
must.
Catherine Grace Loves Horror says Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon. I've not read that one. I've read Boy's Life though, and Boy's Life is very summer.
Yes.
Tattooed Horror Reader says Empire of the Wild by Cherie Demaline. Demaline. What are we thinking? What is our guess?
Um, Demoline.
We could have looked that up before recording. So
I know
apologies.
it's okay. It's okay.
I haven't read that, but I've seen the cover and I have been intrigued by the cover. W. Kelsey 315 says October Dreams. It's another one. Haven't read. Do like the cover. Natural blah blah blah. That's my guess for that. I am so sorry. There's so
Sounds
many
right.
of you that I interact with on Instagram, but I've never had to like say your handle out loud. So I apologize if I butcher it.
Hey, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Because I know we've definitely like messaged or like responded to each other's stories on Instagram. So I'm sorry. Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell, which is really big on TikTok right now. Like horror TikTok, people are reading this, but I have not gotten around to reading it yet. Have you?
Yeah. No, I've only seen it like on Bookstagram and stuff, and I forgot who was reviewing it, but I just saw a review for it on YouTube, and I really like the cover and that title. Oh my God, love it.
LP Niskanen says, I am once again asking everyone to read Small Spaces by Katherine Arden, middle grade horror novel about scarecrows coming to life on a creepy farm. I mean, say no more. She is asking us.
You know what? Fine, let me go put it on my Amazon right
We're listening to
now.
you. We heard you.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
This is one I did see on
I'm for real doing
Bookstagram a
it.
bit. And then Shell_World says Coraline by Neil Gaiman, which I actually have not read. I've only seen the movie.
Oh my God. Hey, no shame. This was actually my first. I guess you would you consider this horror?
Dark fantasy horror, maybe?
Dark fantasy? Yeah, I would. This was my first. This was the book that got me into reading creepy stuff. I read this probably like when I was in the fifth grade, and it was the first book I actually ever like actually finished by myself without being forced. The illustrations are fantastic, and I owe a lot to that book because it gave me good taste.
It made you the Quincy you are today.
It really did. It just I highly recommend it to kids and adults because it's not graphic by any means, but like the writing on top of the illustrations really help you just transport yourself there. Um, yeah, highly recommend that one.
Okay, moving on to Twitter answers. Not as many of these, so we're going to go over these real quick before we get to like our picks for this episode.
Yeah, the meat and potatoes of this episode.
This has all been an appetizer. This has been fried pickles. What is your go-to
Yes,
appetizer?
with a set of range.
I'm saying that like obviously all of us get fried pickles at restaurants, correct?
I get fried pickles at restaurant. Only I'll mix hot sauce with my
Okay.
ranch, because girl likes a little spice. Otherwise, I can really mess up some mozzarella
Oh yeah.
sticks.
Is it deep fried? I'll eat it, you know.
Oh yeah, deep fried. Oh yeah. Also, to me, a quesadilla is not a meal; it's an appetizer. That's the only way I can justify like eating like four. So
There's like a restaurant down the street from us that we go to a lot because it's like walking distance. And
mhm.
they have these, they call them lounge fries, but it is just this like steel tray full of French fries covered in like melted cheese and chives and like bacon bits. And it is dangerous.
Wow,
Like at that
girl,
point, I don't think we even order
that's
food. I think we just get that
get
and
that.
just take our stuff
Oh
to go.
yeah, just to eat in the comfort of your own home.
Like my priority right now, these lounge fries.
Yes, like take my money, don't even say hi, just let's make this transaction and get out of here.
But anyway, moving on to Twitter. James RG writes, said, Bone Set and Feathers by Gwendolyn Keist, if you like witches. Also, Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Again,
Of course.
God, my throat is like dry.
I would be surprised if Ray Bradbury was not on these suggestions, you know?
Yeah. Pirate_Twinkie said Midnight Beyond the Stars, which I know is like a space anthology.
I can dig it.
Son, you do you. If that's what fall means to you, here for it. I
Do
support it.
it. Yes.
Silent Spring 79 says The Dead Hours of Night by Lisa Tuttle, Dark Tales by Shirley Jackson. Okay, got some more Shirley Jackson. The Nightmare Flower by Liz Craddy, and The Bishop of Hell by Marjorie Bowen, and Triad by Mary Leader. Okay. I was quite the list. I think the only one I knew there was Dark Tales by Shirley Jackson. Betty's Books UK says, I have two spooktacular favorites this year. Spooktacular. I like that. I feel like I need to use that more
Love that.
as an adjective. The Spirit Engineer by AJ West and The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. Ink Drinker Dawn says Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chismar, which just came out this year. And
Yeah.
another one for The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. Both are absolutely amazing and perfect for spooky season. And then Ashley at Spookish Mommy says Dark Harvest, The Devil Crept In, Salem's Lot, and Halloween Fiend.
I do love CV Hunt, and that book is good.
I think it's a good entry point for CV Hunt because I think it's like maybe the least extreme.
I could not agree more.
If you're like, I've been curious
Yeah,
about that CV Hunt, I would say maybe start with Halloween Fiend.
Yeah, but if you're not into extreme, maybe just stop there. But if you like her writing, then by all means, go for ritualistic human sacrifice or cock block.
Again, maybe you're the type of person that goes to a pool and just like dives into the deep end without even like touching the water. I do not relate to you, but
Yes.
you live your life.
Yes. Please report back.
I am definitely like the shallow end, like slowly like having to get accustomed to the water.
Tiptoe. Yes.
A few inches
Acclimate
at
yourself.
a time.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by Libro FM. It's getting close to the end of the year, which means big gift giving season. And I don't know if you've heard, but books are one of the things that is being affected by the supply chain issues. Now, this doesn't mean that you still can't be the person that gives the gift of reading this year. If you still want to give physical books, pro tip, I would get on that sooner rather than later and think about pre-ordering things that haven't come out yet. But another way to do that is to think about giving Libro FM subscriptions. They are, all digital audiobook subscriptions that supports your choice of independent bookstore. So consider that this holiday season as a gift, or grab one for yourself. Just head on over to Libro FM, that's libro.fm/freezerbooks to take advantage of the special offer with us and get 2 books for the price of 1. So thank you, Libro FM, for sponsoring this episode. Okay, are we ready to talk about our favorites for autumn?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm going to start off with a book that was mentioned previously, but I feel like we have to talk about it in this episode. It's definitely been my pick for previous episodes. I don't care. It is Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon. It is a 70s classic staple of folk horror. And I would say a big classic in the unsuspecting family from the city and is looking for a change of pace, change of scenery. So they move into this very quaint New England small town where it seems very rural. Things move at a slower pace. Everyone is friendly. There's a strong sense of community. But guess what? They're hiding a dark secret.
Darkness ensues.
It is wild. First of all, the cover art for this book is so good. I love it. I wish I would have gotten one in better condition. I ordered it online and mine came a little bit tattered, but it was an edition from the 70s. So I understand. I forgive it. But I think it's a beautiful physical object, but it's also just like a very crazy book. Like, I remember reading this, and it's one of those stories where I'm like, this is a horror book, so I know how this is gonna go. Like, I know this isn't gonna be a happy, but every time they described this small town, I couldn't help but be a little charmed. Like, they have a little farmer's market. That is really cute, though.
That's how the author gets you. Yes.
Like, I don't know, like, I get it. I would kind of move into this cute little small town.
Question. This is for like how my brain works, but do you think that small towns and like overseas are a lot more appealing than like ones like here in the States when it comes to like reading horror fiction? Because I noticed where I'm like, oh, I see why they would move there. Like, I get it. Like, I would do that too. Where if it's like a town here in the States, I'm like, don't go there. It's already bad. Why are you doing that to yourself? And
I think it's just the idea of it. Because, like when we drive up to see my husband's family and we're driving through like upstate Michigan and we're driving through a lot of these like really rural small towns, I look around and think like, I could not live here. But when I'm
Yeah.
reading about it in the fantasy world, like aspect of it,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally live there and have like a nice little house and make do.
I get it.
Um, but I don't want to say too much. And I know people are thinking like, well, you've already said a lot because it's like a small town with a secret and it's folk horror. But I haven't. Like it goes away. And I think it still manages to surprise. So if you haven't checked it out, strongly recommend Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon. I don't recommend a lot of like classic horror books because I don't feel like, to me as a woman, they hold up like super well.
I
I
totally
will
get it. Yeah.
say there's some stuff in here that I don't put my stamp of approval on. Just putting that out.
Yeah. What would you rate it?
Oh, should have put that in the notes because I forgot. Um, ooh, high fridge, maybe low freezer. Like this was this was a book that I don't want to hype it up too much, but I was like, oh my gosh, what the WTF is going on?
Yeah.
Well, because even at the end, when things are coming into place, and I was reading it, and I'm like, okay, I see what's been going on here.
Yeah.
There's still managed to be surprises, even after I was at that point where I'm like, okay, I see where we're going here. So that was Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon.
Sweet. So the first book I want to talk about is probably a book that everyone and their mom knows by this point, and that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Earlier you asked me what are my, traditions when it comes to fall. I read a Hendrix book every fall. To me, he is exactly what I need to like kind of start off autumn and spooky season. Um, Everything I've read has a little bit of humor, a little bit of spooky, and overall very easy and like fast-paced writing. Um, these A lot of his books I can just read in like a day or two and have a good time. But this book is about a woman named Patricia. She lives with her husband and two kids. She is, of course, part of a book club. Um, and these group of women, just read a lot of like true crime books, and they live a very like cookie cutter life, if you will. And then one day, handsome new neighbor comes moving into the neighborhood. Surprise, he's a vampire. That's not even a spoiler. That's what I love about Grady Hendrix books, that they're very, I guess, self-aware of like their tropes and stuff. Um, this would not be an episode with me on it if I didn't mention my mom reading something, and she did read this. um, she very much loved it, and I think if you are a mother, I think you can kind of relate to some of the topics in this book just because I saw my mom a lot with Patricia, who's our main protagonist. She very much cares for the children of the neighborhood. She will help anyone at a drop of a hat. That's very much my mom. So this book very much felt cozy to me reading it, and it was like the perfect start for spooky season. I do not think it is freezer or even fridge really. I would say like on the counter next to the fridge if the fridge was open. Um, but that is, at least to me, that's what I expect from Grady Hendrix. But yeah, this was a very, very fun book to read and very fast paced. So um, I recommend it. So that's The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix.
I really liked that one. I loved all of the women and their friendships with each other, and I wanted to punch every
Hmm.
man in this book.
Yes. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
of them for being a literal vampire, and the other ones for being gaslighting jerks.
Yes. I gave this book to my mom and I'm like, I hate men. And she's like, okay. And then she reads it and then calls me. She's like, dude, the husbands here, they suck. Like they're written well, but like I think it was meant for
Hmm.
you to not like them, which was funny.
It did its job.
So yeah, it did. And I think 2 years ago I read My Best Friend's
Hmm.
Exorcism. I cried at the end. I will not spoil it, but I'm sure everyone's read it by now. But that ending was like, it gave me a hug. I loved it.
Okay. I've read that 3 times and I've cried 3 times. And then the episode that I did about it, I literally cried, like, talking about it. I'm like, wait, the endings.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
So my next pick is, if you have not read it already, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the graphic novel by Robert Aguirre Sakasa. I do think the Netflix show, if there's one thing it nails, is the atmosphere. I love the Netflix show. It is very moody and very ambiguously set in time. Like, it's supposed to
Yep.
be modern day, but it feels like the 60s. I will say the graphic novel solidly takes place in the 60s.
In the 60s.
Um, and I've said it before. I was flipping through it before this episode. The graphic novel is much darker. And I was thinking about certain plot points that are softened up in the Netflix show. Like, certain characters are like killed off very early on in the graphic novel that are
Mm,
big players. But I was like
yes.
looking through it and there's like more nudity and blood and like sacrifices and stuff, like more in detail in the graphic
Yeah.
novel that are not quite there in the Netflix show that I think, was made
Mm,
for more of a dark, older teen, young adult audience.
yes. Yes.
um, but I love this graphic novel. So, and I think it is very autumnal. I have like the compendium, like the collection of all the different editions
Yeah.
or whatever. So like the first one is set technically in June, but the second one, where like Madam Satan gets introduced, is like October 1966, and that is where
Oh,
like it
yes.
kicks off. So it
Yes.
is witchy. It is set in New England. It has got gory shenanigans. So I don't know what else to say. I love The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and if you haven't read it, definitely need to. That is the graphic novel by Robert Aguirre Sakasa. And then my edition has like the original like Sabrina artwork in the back and stuff. Like, it's very
Mhm.
fun.
Oh, love that. Yeah, I've seen those books. I have a friend that has those, and the artwork is just stunning. And I do agree, it will definitely help transport you to like that autumn feeling. So I totally agree with you. So my next pick is Husk by Rachel Autumn Deering. The only word I can really use to describe this book is wow. It is stunning. It is a novella. It is less than 90 pages. Definitely, you could just get it done in a sitting. Essentially, this book is about a guy named Kevin Brooks. He just returns to his hometown in Connecticut after serving in the military for 3 years. Um, he recently just lost his grandparents who raised him as a kid. He lost his best friend in the war, and he is starting to question his loyalty for the American government. And I know it kind of sounds like a historical novel. It really is not. Um, there's plenty of creepy scenes in this, and what I like about this book is our protagonist is very unreliable to a T. You don't know if he's suffering from something mental or if he's actually going through some sort of dark entity that's haunting him. Other than that, the writing, it really much punches you in the gut. It's beautiful, um, very heartwarming. I could not recommend them enough. This is very much a character study book. Um, and yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. So that is Husk by Rachel Autumn Deering.
This is one I've been meaning to read forever. I know the ladies of the Fright, Lisa and
Mhm.
Kenzie, had Lisa and
Mhm.
Mackenzie interviewed Rachel Autumn Deering and like did a whole episode about the book. And ever since then, I'm like, that sounds really good. I need to read it.
Oh yeah, I listened to that episode, and that's what got me to buy this book. Um, okay, Stephanie on me. I want to cry, and this book will do it. um, it's definitely for those horror lovers that need some emotion. They need some rhyme or reason for the horror, and this book will do it for you.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
I definitely don't. I'm not gonna say it's freezer. don't even say it's I wouldn't even consider it fridge, but um close to the fridge, yes. And the cooler. There we go. That's a good one.
It's the cooler. Okay, my final
Yes.
pick. I am going tonally a very different direction. Um, so my first two books were fairly dark, and I'm picking a book that I talked about a few episodes ago with the author, but it is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. It came out this year, and it is about a woman who was living in New York City with her longtime boyfriend. They break up, and she's feeling very lost because she didn't have a lot like outside of this relationship and is kind of like, what do I do now? She just turned 30 and is kind of dealing with the, by the time I was 30, I had a way I thought my life was going to look. And now, like, it doesn't look that way. So she decides the best thing for her is to just start new. So she moves to a small town in upstate New York and takes a teaching position. And there's a lot of things this book does right, and one of them is atmosphere. I will say tonally, it is a lot more happy. Like, this is a lot more, I would say, adjacent to practical magic.
Okay.
Tonally. Like, it is a lot more like a,
Yes.
I don't want to say like a spooky Hallmark movie, but like essentially a
Like family friendly.
yes and no. Like, there's stuff that happens, and there's definitely dark scenes, and I think like dark implications for things.
Hmm.
But she moves to this small town and she meets this like stunning older woman named Sophie who just really takes her under her wing and really helps like talk her through like, why are you feeling this way about yourself? Like, let me go out and like buy you a coffee, like come over to my house, like I'll make you dinner. And just this friendship that develops between the two women, and she kind of starts to wonder, like, is Sophie a witch? There's just like everyone in the town seems like very eager to appease her, but also seem like kind of scared of her, and like her house doesn't make sense. Like, there's just a lot of things that are not adding up. Like, first, like, how old is this woman? Like, but am I, like, am I just being crazy? Like, no, like, it's a lot of that. And like cute spiders, which was not a thing I thought I would think, but cute spiders. Um, I just had so much fun with this book. This is like the positive, like move to a small town, new start. But there's a lot of like, oh yeah, like let's meet up and go to the farmer's market and go to like the local coffee shop and like buy a latte where like the barista knows your name and like has your order ready before you get there.
Oh wow. So this is to a T
Yeah, this is
autumn-esque.
autumn vibes in a book.
Love that. Love that.
So I would say room temperature, like this could be a book you suggest at like a regular library book club and people would enjoy it. It's very approachable. I would say I had a ton of fun with it. And it was a book I was like, oh, like that was cozy and spooky. There's like that cozy spooky like level.
Hmm.
This is that. This is cozy spooky. This is
Yes.
like a how I feel about like Welcome to Night Vale and like Ghost in the Burbs. It's like cozy spooky.
Love that. I think that's cozy spooky is definitely a good all around like year round thing, but definitely like entering fall. Like yeah, that's why I read Grady
Yeah,
Hendrix.
that's your cozy spooky.
Yeah.
So what's your final pick?
Okay. So my final pick is Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Bright. This is my second Poppy Z. Bright book, and it did not disappoint. Um, Before I get into the synopsis, it's definitely not as extreme as Exquisite Corpse, but there is definitely a lot of trigger warnings still for rape, incest. There's a lot of blood. This book is about vampires. That's not even a spoiler. This is definitely if Lost Boys meets The Devil All the Time.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is definitely like there's a lot of characters. All of them don't know each other at the start of the book. and they all go on their own kind of journey for like acceptance, for survival. There is no plot necessarily. You just see them on their journey, and then towards the end, um, all their storylines kind of collide in a very gruesome manner. Um, this book had a lot of heart. This is definitely a recommendation for anyone that was like a goth or emo kid back in high school. This was very, very nostalgic because a lot of these characters are the goth kids, the outcasts. They have blue inked hair. They wear smudgy makeup. They drink cheap wine and beer, like at a like young age, and very like dramatic, if you will. But the writing, Poppy Z. Bright has again impressed me. Very lyrical, very beautiful. You definitely question, wow, this writing's so beautiful, but like the subject matter is so dark and heavy, and it's like, why do I read this? um, I would definitely put this in the fridge just because of all the content warnings. It is lean more towards like literary fiction, just based off the writing style. But there is a little passage in here that I would like to read, if that's okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so this is just to um, get people in the mood. So, one second. No more were they dry and brittle. No more did their skin look as if it might flake away from their bones at the lightest touch. Tonight their lips shone purple with rouge, and the ripe inside of their mouths glistened pink. Their skin was the smooth white of almonds. Their colored silk writhed around them. They clutched each other with their bird-bone hands and pressed their hollow cheeks together. Their hair twisted together, long strands of ruby red and yellow white, like mingling flames. Their faces echoed each other in a perfection that was once opulent and dissolute.
Okay. Okay.
Oh my God, I want to tattoo that on me. It's so gorgeous. I highly, highly recommend this book if you're into vampires. If you were like a goth or emo person back in the day and you want to reminisce, that is Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Bright.
Okay, well, you sold me. Uh,
Yes,
the writing
it's
sounded
very good.
gorgeous.
Yes, it's from page to page, front to back. That is the writing that you get. Um, and again, it is very much like Lost Boys meets Devil All the Time, especially Devil All the Time, just because you're just following all these characters until they meet at some point. There's no like A B plot, which I think I very much value that in my storytelling because I get to know the characters a lot more. This is very character focused. There was not one character that I didn't like, so highly recommend.
Love that. And this is one you like DM'd me about, and you're like, I just need to let you know that I'm
Yeah,
loving this
yesterday.
book.
Yes, I was like Stephanie. She's they've did it again.
All right. Well, those have been our picks for autumn. Are we ready to jump into the next segment of this show?
Please, I need to talk about
Okay.
this.
Let's talk chilling obsessions. What's on your mind?
Midnight Mass. What's there to say other than you're doing a disservice if you don't watch it? Not one episode was boring. It was from the start up until the end. I was so enthralled, and of course, it's Mike Flanagan, so like I may have shedded a tear or two. Um, yeah, he's really outdone himself with this show.
I really liked it too. I think right at the beginning, I'm like, okay, like we got a small island community. Okay. Like we got
Mm,
someone like coming out of prison with a past. Okay. We got like
mhm.
kind of hot priest. I'm into it.
Yes, you can't go wrong with a sexy priest.
Fleabag has shown us that. Thank you.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I I really liked it. I think especially people that have a religious background in any way, like there's just a certain note that it hit that resonated, I think, with so many people.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have the strongest religious upbringing, but it was definitely in like kind of the forefront of my youth. And it struck a chord so hard. I remember pausing it and I'm like, let me take notes from my therapist so I can like hash this out real quick, you know? Um, it really like it resonated, you know? Um, I did I think I watched an interview with him or read an article or something where this was originally going to be a book and then he developed it for TV, but he's been trying to get it on the screen for many, many years. And I think this was his like favorite project he's ever done. And I'm sure if you are a Flanagan fan, you would notice kind of the Easter eggs that are lingering there that also hint to his other projects and some Stephen King stuff. So
Yeah, well, this was also one that had been teased in other projects, like a lot of people pointed out. Like in Gerald's Game, it's a book on the not on the nightstand, but at like the top of the
the shelf
yeah. I'm
above
like, what
her.
what do we call this?
Yes.
I'm like making motions, like people can hear my motions.
The floating
Yeah, the floating
shelf.
shelf above the bed. And the main character in Hush, that was her book. That was the book she wrote was Midnight Mass.
Yes. Yes. I know there was like a little clip I saw where if you watch Hush, there's a scene where the main character, aka Mike Flanagan's wife, um, was typing the book or like writing it, you know, and if you like pause, you can like read, you know, some of the main characters from Midnight Mass, and like I think there's like a specific scene that you could get a quick little glance at. So I thought that was like a cool little like
That
touch
is cool.
that I would expect from Mike
Yeah.
Flanagan. Um, Also, I I did hear that there was some inspiration from Salem's Lot and Storm of the Century, both by Stephen King. Salem's Lot for some reasons, and then Storm of the Century because it's held in a small communal town on an island, which is on the cover. So yeah, I was like, I have to talk to Stephanie about this freaking show because it was so good, and I'm probably gonna rewatch it here, like probably this
Oh
weekend
wow.
because why not?
Yeah, it was very good. Well, also like halfway through, because I don't think the big horror of it all gets revealed until like episode 5, and so for 4 episodes, I was like, so what's the thing? And I'm like,
You're
I'm like,
like,
this has been
is this a
cool. Love this
drama?
character. Love the town. But what is the
Yeah.
thing that's going on
Hmm.
here?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
I'm like, oh,
Um,
that is the thing. Okay.
yes. Yes. Yeah. If you have not watched it yet, please go watch it.
Right. I
It's called
watched
Midnight Mass.
the new Candyman a few weeks ago, like while it was on
Oh, how was
video
it?
on demand. I really liked it. I had a ton of fun
Yeah.
with it. It's like I don't get to go see new movies often because of my schedule and having 2 kids. It just like does not
Mm,
happen. So I was very happy that it was
yeah.
available. You could like rent it. So, and that was
Mm,
kind of my one big movie I wanted to watch this year. I'm like, the only like 2021 release that I really want to see is the new Candyman. So I was very excited to see it. It had some like very like gory things that I was not expecting, but I think it was a beautiful film. And then I think the layers of the storytelling and like the kind of story that's being told and like what it's saying about urban legends as a whole was very interesting. And everyone, the performances in it were so good. I need to rewatch it. Like
yeah.
I need to buy it when it comes out.
So it's one of those movies like right when you're done, you're like, I want to
Yeah.
rewatch it. I need to rewatch it.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with that. Also watched like Halloween Kills a few weeks ago. Cannot say my feelings were along the same lines. I don't like hate it. Like I I say I didn't hate it. I rated it like 1.5 stars. Like some people are writing like giant like think pieces about how much they hated it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I did not like it, but I'm not
yeah.
like letting it
Do you
ruin my
think?
week. Hate it.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. Do you think this was like maybe a cash grab, or like, do you think there was more to the story that they need to tell that's worth telling?
Well, I think it's just the middle child of the trilogy. So,
Yeah,
like, I don't know. And I can't say there was nothing in it I enjoyed. There were some brutal kills, like some really elaborate death sequences. But then there was like some things I'm like, does Michael do that usually? Like, I don't think I've seen
yeah,
every movie in the Halloween franchise, but I don't know that he does
mm,
that. I don't know. I am not
yeah,
a Michael Myers historian, so I don't know. I thought to me it was just a little on the cheesy side, which is fine. I think I just wasn't expecting cheesy, because here's the thing: I went into
yeah,
Malignant expecting cheesy, so
yeah.
I was okay with it
Same.
when it went full camp.
Yes.
So maybe if I
Hmm.
rewatch Halloween Kills under the lens of camp, I will
Yeah.
enjoy it more. But 2018 was not, like, Halloween 2018 was not campy in my opinion. So that was my
Yeah.
expectation,
Yeah.
and this was like
Hmm.
not that. I don't
Total
know.
camp. Yeah. Yeah. I did watch Malignant as well, and I went in expecting campy, and like at first it was not, and then eventually like became something else, and I was like, oh, once the thing is revealed, I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting that. Talk about the twist of the year. Like, yeah, that's cool. I also, like I mentioned before, I watch Jennifer's Body every year,
Mm,
and I watch it again this year, and it's so funny. It's so funny. There is definitely a lot of gruesome, gory scenes in there, but like I love Megan Fox in that movie. Um, yeah, I just cannot not watch it every year. It was definitely ahead of its time, and I definitely didn't watch it like probably maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, so I was kind of late to the
yeah.
party. But yeah, if you have not watched it, or if you watched it before but forgot about it, please watch it again, because I think it's better now than it was when I originally saw it, especially now that I like appreciate the humor that you know that follows. So yeah.
Yes, I watched it for the first time. I want to say either early this year or last year for the first time, and
Yeah.
I loved it. And I can see why it's getting the resurgence and popularity that it's getting.
Mhm.
Like, I know it was a big deal. It's like streaming on the Criterion channel, so I think people are getting wise about the
They're getting into
the
it. Yes.
cultural impact that Jennifer's Body has had on us.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
what was it? Oh, so this guy on TikTok that I follow, Julian Brzezinski, he
Hmm.
is one of my favorite people, but he does this very elaborate recreations of iconic scenes from movies. Like, he dresses up in all the parts and like lip syncs along. And he's been doing a lot of stuff for October. My favorite one he's done, I don't know if you saw it, was he did the Hereditary dinner scene with Toni Collette.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, you nailed this.
Yeah.
Like, this needs an Oscar,
Yeah.
actually.
Hmm. Yeah.
Cinematography. But he did the pool scene in Jennifer's Body. I posted that on my Instagram
Yes.
story like a few weeks ago, but just iconic.
Yeah. That it was hilarious.
Could I be insecure, needy? God.
Stephanie, you killed it right there.
I watched it so many
Just
times on
I
loop.
closed my eyes for a second. Yeah. Oh, that's so hilarious. And yeah. No, again, audience, if you have not seen it, please go watch it. It's so funny.
I definitely recommend. All right, well, I am
Mhm.
looking at your final girl song here, and I have some thoughts. So tell me about it.
Okay. So my pick is Miss Murder by AFI. So my reasoning for picking this song is while reading Lost Souls, I was very nostalgic, and I'm like, oh, let me listen to the stuff I used to listen to back in high school. So I was listening to AFI, My Chemical Romance, um, any kind of like emo band. I was so in that vibe this year, and I came across, Miss Murder, and I'm like, okay, I'm so down for this. This is my song. Um, I will recommend one other song that I almost picked for this, and that was Haunted by Evanescence, because I love Amy Lee and her voice is beautiful, and that song is has really a lot of creepy undertones, and yeah, you just can't go wrong. So, but what were your thoughts?
I just saw it and I'm like, oh man, that brings me back to like being in high school with like my long black hoodies and listening to all
Yes,
like
with
my,
your
yeah, yep.
thumbs.
You had to either like buy ones with the thumb holes, which were not that common. So you had to make your own
Yeah,
thumb holes.
which is edgy.
Um, I'm just different than
Yes.
everybody else. I don't think you could not understand me. I'm a
Yes.
little
And like,
misunderstood, actually.
yes, completely misunderstood. No one gets me. Yeah, I was that emo kid that would like draw on my jeans with black marker to like piss off my parents. And I definitely had a even though iPods were a thing, I was one of those kids that had like a CD player with the, big headphones that were from like the dollar store, and wearing my like Converse. I was not allowed to wear black eyeliner, and I'm still upset about that till this day because I felt I couldn't really express myself.
Oh my gosh. You know what my thing was? I was not allowed to own a studded belt. That's all I wanted. That is like to this day, I feel like I was denied an essential part of adolescence by not being allowed to own a studded belt.
So what you're telling me is that you were not allowed to live, laugh, and
Yeah,
love.
how could I live, laugh, love
That's
in
what you're
those
telling me. But
conditions, mom?
oh God, you had to wear a regular belt like one of the normal kids. Ew.
Gross.
Yeah, I picked this song because again I was feeling so nostalgic, and um oh, it's cool. It's like a cool little horror song, but I haven't listened to it in like years, so I had to jot it down. But
Love it.
so, yeah,
I used to listen to this song all the time. And I loved the little like prelude 1221 on that album. Just
yes,
really, I'm like,
yes,
this is a vibe. It's only like a minute, but it is a minute of vibes.
yes. It's like a minute that lasts like a lifetime. Back when you're a little emo kid at the age of
Oh
16.
my gosh. And I used to like be like, I'm totally gonna get the three bunnies like tattooed on my hip bone. I'm so glad I did not do that.
Imagine like kids. I don't even know where to begin with this tattoo. Don't ask.
Mom, what does that even mean?
So
I used to want to
yeah.
get like the Avenged Sevenfold like skull with bat wings.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
even that big of an
That's
Avenged
the
Sevenfold fan. I just thought it looked cool. And I'm like, I'm so glad.
because you
I
were
am so glad I
hardcore.
never went through with that. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah. Aren't you glad that was just a phase,
Yes.
and now it's just nostalgia, and that's all that it is? Like, oh, mom, you're right. It was just a phase.
I mean, okay, this is going very long on tangents, but
Yeah.
my husband and I went to the Hella Mega tour like a few months ago, and that was Fall Out Boy, Weezer, and Green Day. And I
Oh
fell like right
wow.
back into that. All these people were wearing clothes like that I wore like during that time, like all the side swept bangs, like heavy
Yeah.
eyeliner, dyed hair. I'm like, oh yeah, this is
Mhm.
bringing me back.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of like checkered and like black and
Oh, I
purples and
I still I
yeah.
recently purchased some checkered slip-on Vans, and I'm like, these are a vibe forever. I don't care how chuggy it is. This is me. This is who I am.
Hey, the emo kid will never die from us.
Yeah,
So
it's it's just part of us. It's part of our DNA. It's been written
yeah.
in there now. Anyway, this has been
Mhm.
like a tangent of all tangents. Other fellow emo kids,
Yes.
feel free to message us on this episode with your thoughts and on maybe whether I
Yeah.
should have
Just
still
send
gotten
us
that AFI tattoo.
yeah. Just send us a little caca and I see you.
You need to send us a rar.
That, yes. Yes, send us a rar. We see you.
All right. Well, thank you again so much, Quincy, for
Of
this
course.
idea.
I always have a good time.
And listeners, let us know
Yes.
if you want this to be a seasonal thing. Like, this is autumn reads. Let us know if you're going to be up for like winter spooky reads, summer spooky reads. We were talking earlier. I think spring might be a bit more difficult. We will try if this is what you would like.
Yes. Fingers crossed. But yes, no, thank you for having me. It's always a blast. And yeah, if anyone reads our recommendations, let us know.
All right. And where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can just find me on Instagram. My handle is Quincy QBear69. Um, I just have a lot of book and tattoo posts because I do like getting tattooed and cute dogs. So enjoy.
All right. Well, thank you again. Books in the Freezer is a bi-weekly podcast. We post episodes every other Tuesday. You can find us on Twitter at BooksFreezerPod, on Instagram at Books in the Freezer, on TikTok at Books in the Freezer, or you can send us an email at booksinthefreezer@gmail.com. If you would like to support the podcast, there are a few ways to do that. One of them is to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/booksinthefreezer, or using the Amazon link that will be in the show notes. Of course, you don't have to spend any money to support the podcast. You can do something like talk about us on social media or leave a rating on a site like Apple Podcasts. Small announcement, I will be taking a small break from making new episodes. Not to worry, like Rachel and I have already talked about doing our normal end of the year favorites. Of course, I'm going to do like the January new releases, and like I have a lot of stuff set up for January. But up until then, I'm just taking a break. As most of you know, I am like the one person that is doing all this and putting things out. So I just needed to step back and take a bit of a break, for the holidays and just take a moment to myself. But yeah, not to worry. I will be back. Just needed a little breather from things. So see you in a few weeks. As always, I'm Stephanie. You can find me on Twitter at lady_gagnon. That's LADY_GAGNON. And on Instagram at that's what she read. So yeah, if you need me, I'll still be on social media. I'll still be active on there. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for being a listener and supporter of the show. See you next time on Books in the Freezer.